based in Austria, for joining us this morning. This is our third in a series of workshops in which we are looking at the revitalisation and the modernisation of the small retail sector. So just to begin, a few minor practicalities is if you need them, there are headsets, and channel 1, I understand, is German, and channel 2 is English. So why are we here today? These workshops that we have run are really focused on the retailing sector and, importantly, from there, the small retail sector itself. The reason why we really wanted to focus on retail and small retail is the important contribution that it makes to the EU. As you may or may not know, in fact, more than 95% of retail businesses across Europe are micro businesses. So in other words, retail and wholesale seems to be the most common activities for SMEs. So how important are they? These SMEs generate 60% of employment and 52% of value added in the sector. But not only that, these small retailers are often located in the city centres, in neighbourhoods, and they are often what bring life or character or a little bit of culture and heritage to these areas. But I'm sure it's not unusual to hear is that they really do face challenges with the growth of e-commerce, the change in the consumer habits, and I'm presuming it is a shared value here is that we don't really want to see these small retailers disappear. But this workshop and the ones that we've run before are really here to try and show the opportunities that exist for small retailers to embrace e-commerce, being online, the internet, and also to try and encourage the adaptation and understanding of the new consumer. So today we will have a number of what we call success stories. These are initiatives that have existed there to encourage small retailers to exert their individuality, to make them offer their personal service or customization. And what we really hope is that these will be an inspiration for you. So it's also an opportunity for you to understand a little bit more about what the European Commission is doing for the retail sector. And my colleague here, Paulina Gabor, will tell you a little bit more about the communication that was published, adopted last April, called the European Retail Sector Fit for the 21st Century. And I will tell you a little bit more about the guide, which I hope you've had a chance to read before today, or even picked up a copy on your way in. And then, most importantly, you will hear from our guest speakers today. He will give you the real hands-on, real-life experience. So I would like to also encourage you to use the opportunity to network. What we learned in our process of coming up with the guide was actually people wanted there to be an opportunity to meet with other cities, to meet with the people who have started the initiatives. So there will be many opportunities. Number one, there's the coffee already outside, and we will have a networking lunch. And then there will be the opportunity for question and answers at the end of each section of the morning. And we also have an ideas board, which is just by the door there. So hopefully you received a post-it on your way in. And I would just encourage you to maybe just jot a few words, put your email address or a website address, and just fill up that board on what you want to learn about or what you want to share. If you have a good idea or something that you've been involved with that you feel that other people could learn from. And so that's really my brief introduction. I will again speak more a little bit to tell you about the guide, but if I hand over now to my colleague, Paulina will explain the communication I mentioned.
Good morning, I'm Paulina Gabor and I work in the European Commission in DG GROW. I'm a policy officer and economist and in our unit we are dealing with the retail sector, with European policy for the retail sector in general. Where it all started, well, it started even earlier, but for us, like the beginning is the single market strategy that was adopted by the Commission in 2015, which recognized that retail is a very important economic sector. You can see some numbers there, but it's really like one of the biggest, it's actually the biggest service sector in the non-financial economy. And it's millions of enterprises throughout Europe, but this huge sector, so important for the economy, is also undergoing really important changes. I know that we hear a lot about challenges linked with digitalization or with the new consumer or the changes in consumer behavior, but these are also opportunities. So we have to remember that it's the changes that the sector undergoes that have an impact on its functioning. We also know that the European retail sector is lagging a bit behind, its productivity is lagging a bit behind, for example, what we can see in the US, in Canada, in Japan, and also the productivity doesn't increase so quickly as in the comparable economies. So there is something there. And this is the sector that really has strong linkages with other sectors in the economy. So really you cannot look at it in isolation. And what we know that the competitiveness of the sector can be impeded and is impeded by some restrictions, regulations that are put in place. So we looked at them more in detail. And of course, member states are competent to regulate the sector. However, they have to respect EU law, and the restrictions that are put in place have to be justified and they have to be proportionate. This is very important. And that's what led us to try to identify best practices among member states, so where the regulations are done in a way that is maybe less restrictive, but still effective. And as Lina said, in April last year, the Commission adopted a communication on a retail sector fit for the 21st century. And this communication is accompanied with a so-called staff working document, which is just a big document with a lot of analysis and description of how the situation looks like in different member states. So we have lots of information there. There is also an economic analysis there. And we also had an open public consultation, so everybody who wanted could share their views with us, and we summarized those views. And along with this communication, the guide for small retailers was also published at the same time. So what was the background or the information that we based ourselves on? So we were talking to the member states, of course. We had some bilateral meetings and contacts with authorities in member states. We also have a group with which we cooperate on a regular basis. It's an expert group dealing with implementation of the Services Directive. So these are experts from ministries, from member states who are really the retail experts or the Services Directive experts, and we discuss with them to understand the different systems in different member states and to see with them what could be improved. We organized workshops to gather information. We had this public consultation that I mentioned. We also had 2 external studies done by consultants that looked first one into establishment restrictions, so restrictions that you encounter when you want to open a new shop, and with operational restrictions, so those that concern a shop already running. So all of this information that we gathered was put together to come into the best practices, the communication, showing what could be done to guide member states' reforms to the direction that could still make sure that the public policy objectives are pursued, but in a more proportionate way. And the role is to give advice to member states to apply EU rules in a way based on solutions that are tried and tested in other member states. And the objective of these best practices is to, in the end, to facilitate retail establishment through better establishment conditions or procedures, so to make it easier, to make it more transparent, and of course to reduce restrictions for daily operation of shops, such as restrictions on shop opening hours or on sales promotions, and also to help transform the small retailers, to help them embrace the new technologies and to find their place in the market. And what we learned, the situation in member states is very, very different. So to kind of make it more illustrative or to understand the situation better, we came up with a retail restrictiveness indicator, we call it. So it shows, it accumulates the restrictions that we encountered. The first pillar that you see on the left-hand side shows the establishment restrictions, and it's all published in our communications and in the staff working document, so everything is there, all the information underpinning this is also there. So the establishment restrictions, for example, it shows whether in a member state that you would be interested in, whether you have, what is the number of permits that you would need to obtain? What is the number of entities that you would need to contact when you want to open a shop? Whether you need to do impact assessments, how much time it takes. So all these things we try to measure, to quantify, and to put into this indicator that shows the level of restrictiveness in different countries, and the same for operational restrictions. You can see that in this indicator. And the idea is really not to have a ranking of countries. This is very important to underline. So the idea is to look at your specific country and to understand where the restrictions, the biggest part of restrictions come from, which is the area that maybe could be reformed, because the restrictions in this area are quite significant in my country. You can compare your country to your neighbors or to those who are performing better in this sense or less well. And it's really like a snapshot. So it's the first edition. We see the situation as it is, but we also want to use this indicator as a monitoring tool. So it's something that when we update it in 2 years' time, for example, we see the developments. Hopefully, this is what we would hope for. We would see the restrictions going down. But the idea will be to try to monitor the efforts of member states in reducing those restrictions. And also it's very useful. It's a useful tool to measure the impact of restrictions on the performance of the market. Because of course, you cannot only look at the level of restrictions, but you have to see whether they actually have an impact on, and what the impact may be on the functioning of the market. So in our communication, in the staff working document, we looked at those impacts, those possible impacts, based on an extensive desk research as well, because there were plenty of studies on that, also in the studies that we did with the external, but also in-house in DG Grow. So there are clear links between restrictions and certain aspects of retail performance. So for example, in countries with higher restrictiveness level, we could see that the churn rates of retail companies, so the birth rates and the death rate of retail companies is lower. It means that the market is less dynamic. The market is maybe less competitive because of this. Also in countries with higher restrictions, the prices for consumers are higher. The gross operating rate for retail is also higher in countries with higher restrictions. So there are different links. And this is important for policymakers also to see those impacts. And then, because reforms are costly normally, so to be able to target the reforms on areas which would make the cost of reforms maybe in relation to the benefits that can be obtained a bit lesser. So this is important information to see from those links. And of course, whatever is done for retail has an impact on the sectors that are linked with retail. So it has the restrictiveness of retail has an impact on the performance of manufacturers that supply the retail sector, on consumers, on service providers that also provide services for retailers. So it's really like, and it's I'm sure much better than us, that it's really also linked. So it's important to remember that. And as Lina already said, within this whole huge, important retail sector, of course, SMEs are vital players. And when you look at the pie charts on the left, you will see that among all SME companies in Europe, retailers are really an important part. So it's over 20% of value added comes from retail SMEs, of all SMEs in Europe. And it's even higher for employment or for other indicators. But it means that it's a very popular business. It's like the most popular family business that you could imagine. It's running a shop, it's being a retailer. But we also see that, there is some room for improvement in terms of digitalization or in terms of picking up online sales. You can see from this graph, the bars there, that only 1 in 5 small companies, SMEs, actually sell online in Europe. It's different in different member states, but on average in the EU, it's only 20%. On the other hand, the sales, the online sales, they grow very dynamically. So the chart below will show you that they grow really much more than the sales in physical shops. Because of the role of SMEs and these still possibilities to help them improve or pick up the digitalization a bit more, we have the guide, and of course we have all the great practices, great success stories that we will hear about. Coming back to what the European Commission is planning to do, or is doing already next after the communication from last year. So of course we have the workshops like the one today, the Revitalize Retail workshops. There was one in Brussels, there was one in Madrid, now we have the third one. So it's really like spreading the news and sharing the best practices. But also we have partnerships with member states, so we are working closely with member states on how to improve the functioning of the retail sector and how to ensure better implementation of EU rules. So to look at this proportionality and the necessity of certain rules. So we have bilateral discussions, or we will have cluster discussions with member states to go through the details of their systems. We had a conference in June last year, a big event, a successful event that took place in Brussels, and this year again in June, on the 19th of June, we will have an event to take stock, to see what changed, the developments since last year. So of course you are welcome to join us for this conference. There should be some information on our website soon, and hope it will be again a good and interesting event. So thank you very much for your attention, and now I will give Lina back the, oh no, you don't. Thank you.
Thank you. So as Paulina and I also mentioned, the guide was published last April. And I think the background to it has been pretty much explained. The changes on digitalization and e-commerce and the changing consumers is really what drove the guide to be produced. So it was underlined by a study, and the study really looked at what are practical solutions, what is happening out there in the EU, and how are these being used, are they successful, what are the common threads? And from there, and all of these initiatives, it was found that there were certain common threads. Small retailers are very diverse. Where they are located, their local areas are very diverse as well. But essentially what was pulled out of there were the synergies, the good practices, the things that seem to be fairly common. And that's what we have now with the guide. And that is what we're hoping can be an inspiration. So it may not be that you will have an exact replica of an idea that's based on the guide, but there may be certain elements that sort of build up. And just to give you a little bit more history, that this format of the workshop here today was actually inspired by some of the consultation we did with stakeholders in the first round, I would say, that led up to the guide. So this really involved the retailers, it involved retailer associations, as well as representatives from local government to find out what was really happening on the ground. And then the course of this morning is really now our opportunity to produce, not a better word, but to really sell the contents of the guide and bring it to life so that those ideas will be used. And as you can see, we have this hashtag Revitalize Retail. So we just encourage you a little bit to use that if you are spreading the word with your own network as well. So the best part will be the rest of the speakers today with their success stories, but I just wanted to talk you a little bit through the guide and to explain really how it works. So the intention of the guide is that it's a toolbox. So its main targets are local municipalities, but there are various things as well that local municipalities cannot act alone. And its aim is to match appropriate solutions to the local situation. It's a step-by-step guide. So it starts with working out what are my needs and how can this then lead to a local strategy. It's built on the solutions that have worked elsewhere in the EU. And we also bore in mind that to do everything would cost a very large amount of money. So it is built on the fact that these solutions are fairly realistic and can be matched to the resources that may be available. So its first step is really a self-assessment that can help select the types of solutions that could help the problems that you may have identified. And then it goes through with some examples of best practices and top tips, which are really quite detailed to give you some real practical hints and practical problems that people have had and overcome. So the solutions are set out in what we call the solutions pyramid. So these are a mixture of people-related and technology-related suggestions, and then with concrete examples, which, as I've said before, is really for inspiration and based on the fact they really have been shown to work in practice. So in an ideal world, you would start at the bottom of the pyramid and work up, but obviously this would involve a lot of resources. So each of the solutions have been designed as being standalone. So it can be possible for you to look directly at one particular solution, for example, getting the information to the retailer's solution to, and really just take those ideas and have them as a standalone policy, because you realize that that's really what you need in your local area. And so, as I said, it's really targeted at local municipalities, but one of the most common things that we found in our fact-finding leading to the guide was that it's not just about one body, it's the retail community. And therefore, it might involve private organisations, it may involve regional and national authorities, it may involve local partners, maybe they are retailer associations, chambers of commerce, and it involves the retail community themselves. So throughout the guide, we have marked those successful initiatives that involve these various different actors so that it can be seen where these resources that are not directly in a local municipality can be drawn from. And so it then also basically underlines perhaps what is a big theme is this retail community, that without the retail community, many of these initiatives will not progress as much as we would prefer. So I don't want to go too much into detail on the actual solutions. I leave that to our experts here today, but when we circulate the slides after this event, you will see a little bit more detail on those solutions. But I just wanted to share a few anecdotes that I've learned on this journey to making the guide. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about the process was we heard real life stories, and the most simple things can actually go a long way. So one of my favourite examples is what happened in Portugal. And it was an initiative by art students in Porto. And all they did was redesign the shop windows. And this basically just made the people know what's in the shop and made them more attractive. And that actually increased the footfall into those shops. So it's the little things that can actually go a long way that don't cost that much money. And another thing I really like that I like to share is the ideas that were fairly clever. And I like the fact that we have now put these in the guide so then people can copy them, because it's always difficult to come up with a good idea yourself, but it's very easy to sometimes copy it. So one of my favorites was just this realization that if you want retailers to be more present online, they have to have access to the internet. And if you want to create a digital story and a digital pathway that may lead for consumers to follow on their mobile phones how they get to the shops and then review them and create this community, you need to have Wi-Fi in public areas. And one of my examples is in the guide is called the Great Gloucestershire High Street. And there they actually link the Wi-Fi and to the CCTV network. So then they had a nice coverage in the city. And it just meant that when they launched a campaign that used a hashtag that started the story and the journey for the consumers and linked the shops, people were able to connect online, more likely to upload photographs even if you have Wi-Fi. And one thing that I really liked about sort of the example actually from our colleagues from the Goethe initiative is the realistic expectation that they expressed, that sometimes it's not necessary that you should be looking to have 25% increase in local spending power in your local area as a result of your initiative. It's sort of just being an increase, even if it is small, is something that you should appreciate, because small steps are what you need to be able to sort of make the difference, and it can move forward a little bit in that respect. So, and just to reiterate the point as well, everything that I learned on the journey to the guide and what the initiatives underline is certainly that there should be this retail community. It's not about someone acting alone. And there are very good ideas, and I think every single one of our speakers here today will also explain how they involved the local community as well to create this dialogue. And that's what made the initiatives not be something that really came from top down, but which asked stakeholders what they wanted, involved them, made them feel part of it. So I also wanted, and I've asked our speakers today to also mention the challenges that they faced and some of the things that they did to overcome it, because I think many of you may already know that retailers may not necessarily want to change. They may not have the time to change. And these are some of the things that were borne in mind with some of these initiatives, and they had to deal with the same situation and overcame them. So, as I say, I will stop talking now, and I am also available for questions during the course of the coffee breaks and lunch, but what I would like to do now is just move on to sort of our first panel and invite our speakers now to sort of present their best practices. The first part is looking really at supporting the development of local strategies and some city examples. So I just let one of our colleagues pass over, and I pass you the...
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gilles Schultes. I'm part of the Ministry of Economy in Luxembourg, and I will present now to you the initiative we launched in 2016. It's called Pacte pour Commerce. We agreed with different partners, let it be the Chamber of Commerce and the Retail Association, Confederation of Luxembourgish Retailers, to launch that pact. Just briefly, I will state the situation or the reason why we launched this initiative. Like Lena said before, retail is in a tremendous change already in the last 20 years, but more rapidly the e-commerce is in the last 10 years like speeding up the change. The first phase of change was definitely when there was shopping centers being built in the outskirts of cities, and it then began already also to be like a tough competition for inner city small retail. In the following on with the, how should I say, the continuous increase of e-commerce, the situation became a little more difficult. We can also say that the result of this is that in inner cities and in the regions where small retail is located, we have less frequencies, less visitors, and so it really impacts the business the small retail does. Let me just specify one situation in Luxembourg. We have a very open economy, a very dynamic demography also, because the population is increasing by 2% a year. And is steadily over the last years. Just when I went to school, the population was 360,000, which is very small, but nowadays we are crossing 620,000, and this is, I was in primary school 40 years ago, so there is quite a tremendous change. Another point is, like Lena and Pauline mentioned, it's the real big impact on employment the sector has. And that was the reason, for these reasons, that the decision was taken with the partners, Chamber of Commerce and the Retail Association, to launch that support pack for the commerce. And it's based on 5 different topics. First is that before you can, it's analysis and market intelligence, you need that before you really start. Then the impact on retail is also to be felt by the communities, the the cities, the communes, the municipalities, how they have to position to be attractive. The third point, which is in all discussed all over the place for the moment, is of course digitization. Also, if you are in the retail sector, you have to have a service culture and you have to promote your activities. Today, as time is limited, we will focus on point 1 to 3. Let's start then by analysis and market intelligence. It's key to see how the habits of the consumers and what their intentions are, how they participate in the retail sector, that they are known before you can take policy decisions. We started in 2008 to have studies about consumer habits. We split them up in 2 categories. First is residents, of course, and second, cross-border customers. Why cross-border customers? As you know, Luxembourg is a quite small country, and we rely heavily on workers that come cross borders. It's 200,000 a day, which is quite impressive. So we have to, this is a component we could not ignore, so we had to take it into our field of study. And we wanted to understand what the shifts are from inner city, small retail, to shopping centers, galleries in the outskirts of the cities, and of course the online impact, where you have the international powerhouses like Amazon, eBay, that are really active all over the place. Another point that is crucial to us, was crucial to us, is to have a mapping of where retail is organized, what kind of retail activities we have in what part of the country, so that we have a total picture. Therefore, in 2017, the creation of a cadastre du commerce, like a retail register, was launched, and it will be available in the next weeks. This is a very important tool also for communes to see how to manage, or to see what is needed in commercial activity, and to attract the players in this field. And a point that is always lifted up by a specialist is like the vacancies. If in a city you have commercial units that are vacant, it has disastrous consequence on attractivity, and that's where vacancies of retail space should be managed. On the regional or local level, as just stated, retail changes has also effects on communes and municipalities. These units, cities, municipalities, have to work on the attractivity of their touristic offer, or let it be retail offer, to be adapted to the consumers. And the register I just mentioned will be a very tough and needed tool. Let it be to work on pop-ups or attract shopping that is needed. These cities and communes, they need to have a roadmap, a strategy, where they want to put themselves on the map in the next 10 years. There's reflection to be done, and Lena mentioned before, exchange of practices, exchange of tests you do, or like exchange groups. There we had, we call it like German Erfahrungsgruppe, Erfahrungsaustauschgruppe. It's like a networking group where you can exchange what you tried, what went well, what was really a winner strategy, so that the communities and communes can work together on doing all together a better job and to promote retail in their region. Okay. Digitization is really the buzzword for the last years, and we can really say that small retail needs a digital approach, and somewhere they need to go to a multi-channel model. As we see, the rising influence of e-commerce is the trend and will continue. The big powerhouse, like I said, like the Amazon or the eBays of this world, they are going a full digital way, of course, and small retail is sometimes more in the daily business, and we need to have them aware what the opportunities are, because they just see it as a threat. But the digital way for small retailers, there are also opportunities there. And this is why we have to have sensibilization to raise the awareness what digitization could mean for them. There's different easy programs we have, like one was called Fit for Digital. It's a voucher-based system where they can have an assessment where they stand in their digital strategy, or if they have any digital strategy yet, or what tools they implemented. So you have an assessment, and you have then a plan where you could increase or improve your situation. That's really necessary to raise the awareness of digitization for these small SMEs. And the last point, we had launched a marketplace where Jerry Klein will give you more details, which is really a hands-on way to digitization that is intended to take the small retailers in the situation they are, give them support to be then present on a platform, which could mean that they are after on multi-channel, on different channels, but that's really the aim of it, and I will pass the floor to Jerry for the presentation of the platform.
Thank you, Gilles. I'm just more used to run around, so that keeps me from. Okay. Yeah, I'm Jerry. I'm responsible for this part of project, and I'm very happy that you have me here, so I can give you an overview of what we do with our recently launched marketplace for local commerces in Luxembourg. Gilles already mentioned quickly the context. That is the situation in Luxembourg. We have 80% of the local residents buying online regularly, which is placing Luxembourg in the top score of residents buying online. You can see that here in this graph that we are really within the top 4 countries in the EU of residents buying online. They mainly buy from a huge retailer I'm not going to name, but its European headquarters is located also in Luxembourg since 1995. So that's 24 years, almost 25 years, that people, local residents, are used to buy online, which is quite a long span of time already, and people tend to forget really how long e-commerce is already around us. Only 7% of shops have an online offer in Luxembourg. Total inbound packs in 2017, as measured by governmental agencies, almost 6.7 million packs being imported to Luxembourg in 2017. Just to remind you, we have only 600, slightly above 600,000 residents in Luxembourg. So this number is probably being more relative if you compare it to the total number of residents living in Luxembourg. So this is an evolution from 2016 to 2017 of over 600,000 packs being imported to Luxembourg. So you can really feel that people continuously buy online. But what they do is they don't buy from local shops online, which is, of course, for the local shops a tragic development. So that's just to frame it up again. You can see that we have local residents buying online, but the local shops not offering their products online, which drives the local residents to buy from elsewhere than from local shops. So the solution was really to launch a local marketplace, which is being launched very recently, and you can see the partners that agreed to run this marketplace are the partners that are also directly involved in what Gilles just described as the Pacte Pro Commerce. So we have communes and cities in Luxembourg being involved in the project to help their local commerces to grow and make their first experiences in the project. And of course we are being supported by the Chamber of Commerce and the Federation for local commerces also. So we have a public-private partnership situation in this project as well. What is really important is that this is not for the sake of operating a marketplace and selling online only. So we have a couple of goals that go beyond running and operating a marketplace. Mainly, honestly, being offering the opportunity to local shops, retailers, to learn how e-commerce really works. What we know now, since we launched the platform, is that they are tremendously afraid going down that route of e-commerce. We have really to help them overcome this fear and learn how e-commerce really works, so that they, and in this case, in an environment that's heavily protected and supported by experts. You can also see that this gives us a good opportunity to promote the diversity of products available in Luxembourg. So I saw a huge amount of shops around Luxembourg since I was working on this project, and learned that you can buy everything you need in Luxembourg. You just need to know from whom. And there's often really a lack of knowledge from the customer where you can provide certain items from. Finally, we also noticed that since there are so few shops online offering their products online, their ranking within the big search engines is really bad. So again, with this kind of project, we are trying to help them better their rankings in the big search engines as well. So this is, unfortunately, this slide seems to be a little bit off, but okay, so this is just giving you a quick overview of what we offer them while participating to the project. It's really, we have a team in place that is there to help the local retailers to come online. They are supported for their onboarding process. They have access to professional photographers going to the shops, taking a snap from their shop so they can present themselves correctly online. We are there to help them put their products online in two languages, which are German and French in Luxembourg, etc. So they have really a 360-degree support for their online retail presence. It was launched very recently, roughly 6 months ago. We had 100 shops online while we launched the marketplace. So I try to quickly run you through what is good, what are the good learnings from our 6-month period operating the marketplace. It's really, we doubled the number of shops being online to roughly 200 as of today. We have over 300,000 products online. To be fair, it's a large amount of books as well. So, but that's we noticed as well that that's the #1 product being bought from local booksellers, which is a good thing. Yeah, we had not one single day without online orders since we launched the marketplace. So the shops that are participating to the project are not all of them, but some of them are continuously selling their products. The ones which are not yet selling their products will have to learn how to promote their online presence a little bit better, but that's why we have a team supporting them in their learnings. We had very few negative client feedbacks as well, so the local residents that are trying to or that are trying out the new marketplace seem to be comfortable with the offer. We had quite an interesting press coverage, local press coverage as well, which helps us, of course, promoting the place and the retailers that are participating. And mostly important is that we have a very stable logistical and operational environment. So we don't have many failures on the technical side and on the logistical side as far as of today. Of course, no one said it was going to be easy, and it isn't. We have challenges that we are facing currently. We have to motivate a little bit more the local partners, the communes, the cities, to become ambassadors of the project. That is really important because they are really facing the retailers in their cities, and they should be a source of motivation to have them online and to make their experiences with us. And of course, we do face resistance from retailers. It's hard to understand why. We are currently trying to figure out, we have such a good offer, why aren't you falling for it yet? And we are going to discuss this a little bit more with the local communities and try to figure out what can be the storytelling from us to convince them to work with us as well. Then, of course, we're very young. We need a little bit more time to anchor the marketplace in the heads of the local residents so that they continuously consider the marketplace as an alternative to internationally operating marketplaces as well. We are continuously working on the technical evolution of the platform, etc. What is also important is that we offer training through our academy to the retailers so that they can come and learn how e-commerce works and from their own experiences share with other retailers and get better at it, honestly, to be honest. So just a quick run through the looks and feel of the website. It's a classical marketplace setup, so there's no brain surgery for anyone using it. It's very simple, it's pretty straightforward. That's how it looks today. Just so if you're interested, you can pick up your phone during the break and then experience let'sshop.lu live if you wish, and so you can see what is going on live as well. So there's the product description. You see it's very straightforward. And what we really do is put forward the each time in the product description, the retailer, who they are. And you can see that as well here. We are really focusing on who is the retailer so that the client really can identify with the local shops themselves, which is in such a small place as Luxembourg a very important topic because we tend to know each other and are very curious about who is this guy in that shop I'm going to buy from, and that's an important aspect to their promotion online as well. So basically, that's it from my side. I'm happy to answer your questions later on if you wish. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Scholtes and Mr. Klein. I have to say that one of my favourite things about this initiative is the evolution. The fact that it was described that it really had solid base to start off with, really understanding what it is that is in the area, and then it's evolved. And I would say that when we put this best practice in the guide, it didn't have this Let's Shop. So it's nice to see that there can be changes. And just to draw your attention as well is that when we had the same workshop in Brussels, there were a couple of initiatives that were described from Belgium there that really talked about this digital awareness, making sure that retailers knew actually how technology could help them. And I think this is perhaps the little fear that you've also described as well. They were a little bit scared of e-commerce, but there are opportunities out there. So I think it's a really nice initiative, and I certainly like this idea of there being online presence. I mean, not all shops are ready to go online and sell, but I think we will hear some examples later this morning that really show the digital side of things. But I have to also admit, having moved to a new city myself, it's always good to know that there's a resource there that can show you where you can go to actually get those things you want, rather than perhaps going automatically to the biggest competitor. So I now hand over to Mr. Masura, who will give us a slightly different example from Croatia. So please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I'm coming from Croatia. We are on the opposite side of the Luxembourg, like the open economy, GDP, and everything. The Luxembourg is the top. We are always on the bottom of this list. I'm coming from the city of Šibenik, who is a good example of what is doing with European money in some remote region, which was on the bottom in Croatia. Now we are in the upper upper list of Croatia GDP, and we do lots of good projects. One of our smallest projects is about retailers. Where is Šibenik? Šibenik is in the middle of Adriatic coast, and it's a town in the bay, which in the past was industry town, now is a touristic town. We have population of 46,000 people. Unfortunately, we are with the population going down. 10 years ago, we have more than 51,000. We have lots of, when we enter in European Union, lots of population from Croatia is going to work and live in Germany and Ireland. We are capital of Šibenik County. We are famous because we are one of the smallest cities in the world with 2 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. One is St. Jacob's Cathedral, the other is St. Nicholas Fortress, and we have 2 national parks. Šibenik is the oldest Croatian native city. It's founded in the 11th century. All other towns on Croatian coast are founded by the old Greeks or Romans. In the 19th century, the industry in the Balkan and Croatia becoming in Šibenik with cheap electric and power and coal. First was steel industry, then was aluminium industry. The town was industry town, one of the richest till the homeland war in the 19th. During the market change from the communism to the capitalism, and it was always a town where the war happens, and the aluminium industry was destroying during the war. The steel industry collapsed after liberalization of the market, and we had very painful economic transition when we were on the bottom of the Croatian GDP. And what is happening now is tourism. This is beach where was a port for the factory, and we have increased in the number of the tourist nights from the last 10 years 5 times more. We have more than 1,500,000 tourist nights in the city. We are starting dealing with retail sector to the URBACT project, retailing. There was lots of small towns in Europe who joined to make some progress in retail sector. When I read retailing objectives, I think it's perfect for the Šibenik. We didn't have at that time city retail strategy. Our SMEs were on the bottom of the day competitives. We have a problem with the city center, with revitalization, because the city center is going to be a tourist attraction. Lots of people are moving out. The apartments with Airbnb and Booking.com are occupying our city space. And we didn't have any digitalization in our town, especially in the retail sector with small SMEs. What we're doing in Retail Link Network was transnational learning and learning from the expert. This is one graph from Retail Link, and we do it just like this. We first understand the consumers, then talking with our retailers to make a strategy, shaping the space. Then we talk about regulation and mobility. Mobility is a very important issue in a middle-aged city like Šibenik, and now branding our city shops. Our city strategy is calling on English sales because we have this enormous problem with seasonality. This is how is looking our city in the winter. The shops are closed because the shops are now going to sell the product to the tourists, and 86% of the tourists are coming in the summer. So the shops are closed during the winter, and in the summer we have enormous pressure of the tourists. You can find parking space. The footfall is strong. The streets are full of the consumers. And our city strategy is going to have 5 objectives. The first is talking with our retail sector. We're forming OLG groups, and we are starting to talking to avoid conflict in the space and to make joint progress. The other was mapping the city, mapping our space. We do something which is the first town which is doing in Croatia. We are protecting the ground floor by the law, not to convert to the apartments or the flats. Because if you are owner of the space in the city center, you can get much more money, 10 times more, if you convert your store to apartment. So the retailers are losing their space. They can afford space for the shops because renting apartment for Airbnb is much more lucrative. We as a country, Croatia is very centralized, so we don't have on the local, on the regional level premises of business and something it's doing by the state. So we can do much on that field. We also realized, like in the agenda of the retail sector, and what we're talking colleagues from Luxembourg, that retail skills were very low and competence of the SME sector. So we are doing job to education them. We enter Wi-Fi in the city center and lots of training of digitalization. This last, we didn't succeed. We didn't make connection with Croatian designers. This is my personal, the biggest disappointment. We are thinking that with so much tourists in the town, that Croatian designers will be ready to sell their products in the shops, to have a different shops, because we learned that we can be a concurrency to the shopping centers in the suburbs, because they have cheaper space, they have free parking, and now we are trying to convert our stores to sell different type of the goods than the shopping center. The goods which are locally produced with designers, with the added value, is not only selling the products, selling the story. This is our biggest problem. This seasonality problem. So beginning this year, we have very successful competence, Idemo do grada. It's going to the city. It's our brand. We have 14 events during the winter season. This is different from the wine fair to the children educational workshops and something to get more footfall in the city center, to create shopping atmospheres. And also we are lots of doing on this hashtag, especially on Instagram and Facebook, Idemo do grada. And first there was only 5 stores. Now we have more than 50 stores in the city center who are in this. We are paying the marketing agency to doing the promotion of the small retailers on the Instagram and Facebook. And now we are starting also with one web shop, with one web page, who will be something similar what you done in Luxembourg. But we have some problems, but mostly we are, because shop owners in Šibenik are pretty old people. More than the average year is 55 years. And when you're talking to them, they said, I'm too old to make changes, but you have still 10, 15 years. So everything is changing in these 10, 15 years. All the people who didn't change, they closed their shops. So we are doing lots of on this communication. As a middle-aged city, which is very difficult to reach, we have this mobility problem. City center of the Šibenik is the largest center in Croatia, which is pedestrian zone. It's not pedestrian zone by the law. It's pedestrian zone by configuration with lots of stairs. It's 1.7 kilometers long, 1 kilometer wide. So it's very difficult and very expensive to renovate shop, because you must do it all by the hand. So this this kind of the improvisation. And we had another big problem, it's a parking. So the largest city investment now is going to be a parking space beneath the city center, and to put all the cars from the streets on the ground. So we will have two big impacts. First, the streets will be better looking without the cars, and lots of space with lots of public space will be free. Also, we will increase the parking lots, because in all our questionnaires, the retailers said that they are losing the job and the customers because sometimes they are looking 40-45 minutes to find a parking space. And so this is our last specific objectives, and this is what we are doing as a city to improve retail sector. Improving retail sector is not only about retailing sector in the small city like Šibenik. It's the part of the culture, the part of the liveliness of the city center, because if we said, let the market do, what we will have? We will have 2 or 3 shopping centers in the suburb, and the city center will convert to the tourist apartments, and then nobody will go to the city center. What the local residents have a reason to go in the street where there is no shops, where there are only apartments, and also it's a question about security in the weekend times where all these apartments will be empty. So our first strategic goal of the city is to revitalize city center, and we think that small retailers are an important part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Masura. I think it's an interesting, different example, and I like the interesting part for me was certainly the fact that, okay, you found a new angle for your city with this tourism, but it came with additional pressures, and I would have thought that the reason why a lot of people like these towns is often because of the character of the shops there, but if the shops are disappearing for the apartments, this is an interesting development that I have to admit that it hasn't really come through a lot as a pressure that's faced by some small retailers. One of the interesting examples as well that we heard in Madrid at the workshop there was from the Portuguese ministry that explained as well that because Portugal has suddenly become this cultural tourist destination, they also have had initiatives that really have drawn on the strength of this suddenly being the most trendy hotspot place to go and linking it to the culture and heritage. So the tourism side is an interesting angle for cities. And maybe now I just move on to our next speakers, Mr. Randall and Mr. Stadler, to explain their initiative that's happening in Austria for us.
Okay. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Nice to welcome you here in Vienna. Yeah. We are coming also from Austria, Upper Austria. And then first I'm allowed to introduce you. This is Mr. Reinhard Stadler. Yeah. He's the chairman or the president of our Gute-Verein. What does Verein mean? In Austria, you have an organization. This is called Verein. Very easy to manage, yeah, and to bring the initiatives in a structure. Yeah, he's the guy. He's our president, and we are working 20 years in this initiative to bring the small and retail sector in our area a little bit forward.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome from me as well. This is Mr. Erwin Brandl. He is the mastermind of our idea, and every year at least he has one idea, a new idea we have to develop, and we develop it till it works together then.
And it takes a long time.
It takes a long time, yeah.
What he is seeing is in our brand Gute doesn't only mean the good thing is so close. It's not so internationally easy to translate, yeah, you to bring it all over the world, yeah. But it was, we always say, it's easier, you don't need to make developments twice, yeah. It's enough to do it one time, and then you can learn from your partners. And this is a very important, I guess, strategy, what we are doing, and you see it, it's like from a poem, it's Mr. Goethe, the pendant maybe in the UK, which is so popular at the moment, is Mr. Shakespeare, only to see that we are learning from all the guys who can bring us some pieces forward. Mr. Stadler.
Yes, here you see where we are from. We are from Austria, yes, you know. And Austria is a very small country, you know, you've seen today. you enter one end and almost leave the next one. And we are situated in Upper Austria. That's the northern part of Austria. And we are in the district of Urfa, and this is next to Linz. Linz is the capital of Upper Austria, and Linz is a very strong industrial town. And Linz is the only one town in Austria that has more working places than inhabitants. So a lot of people going down to Linz to work there, and this is a real big problem for us.
Yes, here you see a little bit, you can also hear the images, what is this face from Linz, and our problem you see here in the north, yeah, we both coming from the east, here it's called Gardenkirchen, and 80%, yeah, of the purchasing power is going down to Linz. Somebody says like the water, everything is going down, and you bring all this purchasing power to the big cities, and we in the north have the problem how to establish or how to bring our infrastructure, yes, what we have, what can we bring for in the future, yeah? And this is really, really a big challenge, and we started 20 years ago, and what we have seen is that we have different actions, campaigns, and everything else, but we saw we need to do something more. We need to develop a brand, and we need to bring the people how should I say, when you're looking from a small city to the bigger city, everybody's saying, okay, woo, this is the big one, and I'm always from the small town, yeah? And they got a little bit pride from where they are coming, yeah? And this initiative has made many steps in this time to bring this local pride one step forward. And this was the aim for our initiatives. Rainer.
Yes, we have the purchasing power of almost more than 400 million euros in our district, but we only can fix 52%. So we have only 200 million we can fix in our district, and we have an outflow about 250 million. So and not much inflow because the other districts are not so, they also lose money to Linz. So we have our goal is not to get 50%. We only want to have 5% more purchasing power, because 5% will mean about 14-15 million euros, and this will be about 200 to 250 jobs, and that's our goal. And so that was the thing we tried to do, and now we can show you it works.
Yeah, one of these, and you see this economic circle takes some different ways, yeah. But what we tried to learn, our guys and our inhabitants, when you take your money and you invest the money in your own region, then you bring this circle up. When you take this money, and this is also what we have a little conflict in digitalization, yeah, because you can buy your products everywhere online, yeah, but this doesn't help you in your own region. That means in that case, you must find a system or combine or construct a system which brings the advantages of such online tools, of digital tools, to your offline personality. Yeah? Because one thing, yeah, is the USP of our initiative is that we bring the person, yeah, the human being and all the social needs in the first position, and then combine it with digital offers, with digital needs or something else. Yeah?
The most important point is to raise awareness. So we have, we tell our people, we tell our consumers, if you have a political decision, election, you have every 4, 5 or 6 years, so you can give your vote. If you take this 20 euros, you can decide, you can vote every day against your region or for your region. You can decide where you spend the money, and you can stronger your region. That's how we make awareness.
Yeah, and that brings the economic cycle upwards. And we also have, what we have seen is, and we have seen it in the presentation before, also when you take your stakeholders in the region, that means also in schools, everybody else, you must explain to people what does this mean for your region, how you can come up, and how this circle works together. And this is also what we have seen. We must, when we do some development, some economic structures and or initiatives, we must bring some values. We must a value-added strategy to come up. Therefore, we decided for that.
A big point is we created and we tell the people we have 4 values, because it's very important to have values, because we have regionality. Sorry, that means our district. UU is our district Urfa Umgebung. The second value, a very important value, is quality. The name of Gute, the word of Gute, is the German word of composition, but it's good. Cooperation is a very important value for us, because we are almost 400 companies and they have to cooperate together. So we have the U and U for cooperation, and the thing, the idea is an innovation. I think everybody understands.
And what we did is, because we also started with the analyze. Yeah, we tried to analyze what is our situation, what are the facts, but what are the chances, what can we do, and the next step is you must find ways to improve really. Yeah, what we don't want to do is to make copies. Yeah, because I'm coming from the IT business. Yeah, we have spoken before from Amazon or something else. We cannot take the struggle against a Google, Amazon, something else. It's not a chance. We also don't want to copy them. Yeah? We only find a strategy what from the one side have to combine with the second side to bring it to a new way. Yeah? And this USB for your strategy, this personal way, as you want to name it. Yeah? This is the way that you can differentiate and bring an identity, your own campaign, in versus the big, the general players or main players on the world. And we checked it, I don't know, 50 times, maybe more in these 20 years. And we saw at the end of the day that the customers need some values then they have another understanding for your initiative. And this makes the big difference. And when we come with our initiative, this is very, very small. Yes, you say Luxembourg is small, but this initiative is much smaller. And from the region, we came to the neighbor districts, and they also have the same problem. Everybody suffer from a big city in the center, which take their financial power. Yeah? And then we saw, okay, guys, we have some waves, we have some tools. We invite you, you can use them for that. Yeah? And we brought them to the neighbors beside the Danube. And then 1-2 years later, we asked them, what was the most important thing from all the tools we gave you? And then it comes from shooting.
Yes, it was the name of Gute. It was very interesting for us because we thought first it will be difficult to translate or transfer the name Gute to another district, but they said it was the most important thing they imported from us.
And because they have given their structures and their small retailers in the city some values. And it's more than only to have tools. Yes? And this what we have, this we heard so often the last time. Therefore, you see our fish, it's not a big fish from the one, but if you, and this is the most important we think from these 4 values, is the cooperation. Because we in Austria, we are so small, we cannot do anything against the big ones. Yeah? We need to cooperate. Yeah? We bring together, and then we will be seen also from the customer side as the bigger fish. Yeah? And the most important thing for all our initiatives, or digitalization initiatives, is our values must be included 100%. And when you have 100% of these values based on the new initiative, then it will spring forward. Therefore, we have done. Yeah, this is some trend in this small area, Mr. President.
You have seen, we started 2000 we started before 2000, but 2000 we had 290 members. Now we have 390, actual 94, 5, so almost 400, and still you see the chart still going up.
Yeah, what we also have seen, we learned in the past that it's only not necessary to do consumer initiatives. We also make employer brandings and many of these small activities which bring our philosophy, our values, in today's thinking of the people. Yeah, this is one for example we want to show today. We only have our Gute card, a very simple tool. It's not something, how should I say, really a technical high step. You have so often such a tool, but what we did, we make it different. We say, okay, guys, with our card, we don't want to bring the people to buy more, and another more, do that, buy that. No, we said, let's make the difference. When I'm customer, and I change the role and say, very small retailers, and I, as a customer, had the chance to come to everybody from you to get the same bonus, and I can, at the end, decide who to them I want to pay with it, then these very small customers are a community. And the customer see them as a community, like a center, although they are in the whole district, maybe 30, 40 kilometer different, a very small one. And what we have seen for the small retailers, they need systems which are easy to use, and we have seen before it's so difficult to bring them, you have to train them, everything else. That we need simple systems for everybody, but also this cooperation, this value, and to bring it in this initiative was a very, very big success. So we are very proud of that. For example, we have, this is not because we can do only in how should I say, daily goods. We have 55 retailers which can use this system because we are so different. And with them we have at about 800,000 times per year which this small card is used. Yeah? And we also bring them together, and the SMEs, they also have to learn to cooperate. They must do together. This is a strategy for the future.
The most important thing with the Gute card is it works fantastic, but it must be on the point of sale, because it doesn't work if the shop owner says, okay, it's a good system, I will take it. The people at the point of sale must use it. They must use it, they must talk with the consumer, and they have to take it out. I had once a nice story I could see. I was in a small shop, bought something, and the consumer before me was on the point of sale, and she was asked, now Mrs. Kapper, I know her, you have a lot of points on your card. Now you can go to the next store and can buy something to dress. So that was the experience for me. The lady on the point of sale didn't say you can buy at me, you can buy by the next one. That's the important thing, and so it works. The cross-selling, the people going around and sell where they want.
Yeah, and now we want to also show you our next small project. Everybody knows, maybe in his own country, and we also try to make it a little bit different, because we in the region outside we have farmers and they produce high quality products, but we have the problem how to bring these products to our shops. How we can do that. Yeah? And what we don't want to do is we want to do a general web shop like it's done, you see every time. Therefore, we make, and this initiative will start at the 1st of May, in 4 weeks. That means we made, because with this card, we know the customer of the daily goods. In normal case, they don't know that. Yeah? When they go to the supermarket, it's anonymous, and therefore, with that, we have the data from the customers, and we say, okay, when we here have some small cities, yeah, very, very small in our region, we want to stable this structure, that we don't lose it here in the region. Then we combine it with products from farmer goods. Call this the Gute Bauernladen. What does this mean? We make a cooperation with our farmers, and our guys, which are buying in our Gute supermarkets, yeah, they can reserve, yeah, goods from the farmers, which are brought to the preferred supermarket. Therefore, we have 7, 8 in our district, and you can order until Monday. And when you go to your supermarket on Friday and Saturday, your personal choice from all this, what is possible to produce in the region, will brought for you, especially to your supermarket. Yeah? And from there you can go to the point of sale, you pay as you normally do, you need no credit card, because we have the same problems in here. Our fan community is the older one, yeah? The same one, yeah? From the oldest Gute card user is 88. 88, yes. And they are a little bit, how should I say, yeah, they are not so the first step to take all these products. You have to learn them, but they use the card when they say it's a normal procedure. And in that case, we make a little bit different. We want to bring all these advantages. First, we have some separated, they called food cups in Austria. Then here we have the farmers to try to sell it. Yeah? But it's so difficult to bring the people on this point to bring this process up. Therefore, we make the combination from farmers. They focus on production. And on the other side, we have our supermarkets. They need frequency, they need customers. When you bring this offer on this point, when it's ordered, then you combine both values we want to do, this cooperation, to bring this in our region. And we are very, how should I say, hopefully to see how this digital initiative will have success. But what we hear now in the preparations was very, very, very good for the first.
Yes. We think it will be very successfully because the first feedback we became from consumers is very good. And so, yes, maybe we can tell you next time how it works. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. If you have somebody, we have some also an initiative like a Gute Award and something else, some breakfasts. You can do so, and to bring the human beings together, bring you forward. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
And by coffee, we can take all the questions. Lena.
Thank you. I think that's very interesting to hear that another innovation that, and there may be more to come. So I look forward to hearing about those. But one thing maybe I will pick out is really what really struck me and I really liked is that you don't just have this brand. You've developed this pride in the brand. So it's not just an image. It's something that people really value. And I thought that was one of the nice things that of this initiative, that it isn't just about having some fancy logo. It's about what's behind that logo. So, and also I would just reflect a little on one of the stories that we heard in Madrid, which was a online shopping e-commerce initiative called iShop Braga. And that in particular also had this problem that they wanted to differentiate themselves from their main competitors. And it's very interesting to see that you really thought about what is your USP, what is your unique point that does make you different, that you don't just copy what they offered. And I think that's quite an interesting sort of evolution, and you may want to get in contact with the colleagues that worked on iShop Braga to share your ideas. But I hope there has been, and it was good to hear also in the last presentation, that the idea was able to transfer to other areas and neighbourhoods. So I would like to just invite you to ask any questions you have. I have quite a number of questions myself, but I would rather obviously hear from you first. I would just ask that you introduce yourself and what organisation you are from as well, if you would like to ask a question. Maybe I extend it to the speakers as well, if you have any questions that you would like to raise with the other speakers, or even with the Commission, if you have any.
I think we have, yes, we have some questions from you.
Hi, I'm Lino Minto from the Malta Chamber of Commerce. I have a question for Mr. Klein, if I may. From your experience so far, have you seen a marked improvement in getting people to the brick and mortar by using your platform?
Thank you for the question. It's an excellent question, because what we hope to generate as well with this project is the so-called ROPO effect, which is the research online, purchase offline effect. So driving people to the stores. On our side, it's indeed very difficult to measure if people are going back to the stores, so we need to talk to the retailers. All I can say for now is that we had a local radio station interviewing 2 retailers that confirmed during their interviews that they have clients coming to the shops and then indicating that they saw the shops and the products on Let's Shop and didn't want to buy online and went to the brick and mortar shop to buy their products from. I have, up to now, it's only been 6 months, I have no data whatsoever that I could produce to confirm this trend. But we have the other option as well. So people that are buying on Let's Shop can indeed have their goods being delivered to their address of choice, or choose click and collect, which means they pick up their goods from the shops after their purchase online, which that we can measure actually. We have around 15% of the purchases on Let's Shop are click and collect purchases. That means 15% of the clients buying online are picking up their goods from the shops, which means the retailers have direct contact to their clients that bought online. I believe that's also a very interesting point of this project. Did I answer your question? Thank you.
Is there any other questions I could take from the audience?
Good morning. I'm Luís Brás from ADIPA, is a Food Business Distributors Association. Join wholesalers and retailers. And I have a question from the Good Farmers web shop. How does it work, the logistics from the system? Is it easier or difficult? How do you put in way?
How should I how should I explain this? In the preparations, yes, and in the plannings, yeah. Of course, this is one of the biggest challenge. Yeah, absolutely. We also here, maybe it differs from the country. I mean, because we have in Austria we have the Chamber of Commerce and also the Chamber of the Farmers, and we take also the structures to organize these things. Yeah, that means also we helped many of the farmers to be able to deliver products. Yeah, we all know that in the standards in the food industry, in the supermarkets, yeah, are very high. And you must differentiate between what you're doing at home, yeah, you're selling in your own shop, on your own farm, and what you're bringing to a supermarket, yeah. Therefore, we made a standard, what must this farmer do, yeah, the products, because all these products must be, when you go to the point of sale, you have your, I don't know the English expression, sorry, your big system. You must bring the products with an EIN code, yeah, that you can pay to put it on the scanner, yeah. On that case, therefore you must prepare all these things, yeah. You must have structure, and this is very in Austria. Yes, you have it to do it in different financial systems, something for that what you need. But the logistic and all this organization, how to bring the products there, this is the most challenge. But we have seen, okay, good, they have 4 values. Yeah, the farmers must also cooperate. Yeah, and you also make a structure that means until Monday at the end you can order. Yeah, the customer can order. Yeah, then the farmer has 2 days. In 2 days he produces what he will get. Yeah. And then this is on Tuesday and Wednesday, and on Thursday they deliver until 12 o'clock. They deliver to each of the supermarkets where the goods are coming, and at the afternoon the supermarket combines all the products from the region to these orders, yeah, to bring it together. And then the customer is coming up for Friday and Saturday, and he can take his order in a bag, yes, in a bag, and the most important thing is he will buy something else. Yeah, the main frequency, a little extra business for the supermarket, and we can also do, all the when you have product problems, yeah, you can do it in the business, yeah, when you want to. Sorry.
Complain.
Yeah, if you want to complain that the product is not 100%, yes, you can all these changes do in the supermarket directly, yeah, because I'm so unhappy by online shopping when you order 10 bags and send 9 back Yeah? And this is all the things, because we also look at footprint and everything else, all these things we can do here in the supermarket directly. Then you have ordered, you have checked, and you go to the point of sale, take it to the scanner, and everything we will pay in a normal way. You don't need no credit card, nothing else.
So, as I understand, there's a strong link between the farmers and the supermarket. Yes?
Extremely strong.
Okay.
link.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there any more questions from the audience I could invite?
I have a question concerning cooperations with bigger stores like food market chains or shopping centers. Do you have any experience in your projects when cooperating with bigger stakeholders?
I could say for the Luxembourgish project, it's definitely aimed for smaller structures, because the big players, the big chains, or you mentioned, they are further on in their process of also digitization. They are not in a situation they need help. They have their strategies, they plan, but for example, if you have small retailers that are in shopping galleries managed by bigger retail groups, they are accepted and open in all the efforts we make, and because they are the little players of small retail that are the big shareholders of employment and so on, and our programs are clearly addressed at the small retailers, even if they work in bigger structures or rent over a small unit in a bigger shopping center, because their challenges in digitization and presence is definitely the same like another small retailer in another location.
We can also confirm this absolutely. In our initiative, it is one step further. We separate directly. In our initiative, it's only allowed when you are the owner of the company. Yeah, that means when you're a franchise, but you are doing your business yourself, then you can be part of this initiative. Why are we doing that? Because the big players, as speaker before has said, they take their own strategy. They don't take care of you. They don't look on the left or on the right side. Yeah, they go with you together as it is in their way. Yeah. But you can do that, yeah, because they dominate all the things. And therefore you must make a break and say, okay, this is not our civil, we must focus on the other one. And you need also what is also very important, and it doesn't matter in which structure you do that, but somebody must take care for this group, yeah? This is so important. If it's coming from the city, if we are working together with the Chamber of Commerce or for the farmers, somebody must make the leadership. Yeah? And this is really important, because otherwise you have a big group and you're going on the right side or the left side, and you go one step forward and two steps back. And this is also we have done in Gute. We decided these are the goals, this is the strategy, this we can do. Yeah, this, and our budget is very it is so low you can't imagine. Yeah? You can't imagine. Therefore, you need that the people, yeah, in our initiative, they have to think over, they have to do the work themselves, yeah, and then they are really integrated in the project. Yeah, this is also when as we have spoken with the last project, our new child, the Bauernladen, the farmer's good. They have really, we took 2 years intensively to form this new idea, and all this we have this is not a web shop, you see, this is an ERP system, yeah, and you must do different things that are on the market. And then you combine it, and then you're coming to success. And all these guys and all the small retailers, we are working intensively on the project. They have success at the end. And all the guys, they are a little bit, yes, hello, here I am. Is there anybody who can do something for me? Okay. And then he is leaving. He will never make any success because he didn't understand the system. Yeah? And he must also, Rainer told before, our small goodie card, only this small plastic. When you understand what you can doing together to the customer, you make big business for yourself. Yeah? Many of them, because we have about five of our retailers told us, if we don't have this plastic, yeah, only this plastic, we must close our shop. We couldn't survive. We need these initiatives that our business is going on further. Yeah? And this combination of, so we have vouchers, we have a lot of things, yeah? And all these parts, and at the end, you have enough that you can bring the small system further. Yeah? And this, it's very important that you think over. I hope this was a small answer to your big question.
Thank you. Can I take any more questions? I think we have time for one more. Maybe I can just reflect on the last comment there, just talking about this leadership. And in fact, actually, it was an interesting point that came through the study as well. And quite often it's referred to as a city centre manager. And this is often the focal point for many initiatives. And what we learned is often that this person as well is maybe seen as more neutral, because in certain scenarios you have retailers who don't have a relationship with someone at the local government level, or they only receive fines or problems or complaints from the local government. So this was an interesting part of many initiatives. I think of one that we showcased in Brussels, the Amsterdam 9 streets, that also had this as the central focus point for the retailers. And interestingly, building on what was the question that interests me about how you involve the big players and the small players and whether they're interested, I think there are a variety of initiatives that have included the full range in the retail community. But I think it also is the same point that has been made, that smaller retailers can be reluctant to be involved because, for example, they don't see the benefit to them. But I think in the same way, the bigger retailers don't necessarily see the benefit to them to be involved in an initiative as well. So I think it again underlines certainly the importance of the retail community and the dialogue that we've had. Perhaps I can just ask you to intervene on that.
I actually have a question for you, because you saw a lot of initiatives, I believe. Did you also analyze initiatives that failed and try to understand why they failed?
Yes, well, it was the contractor that certainly looked at this, and part of its fact-finding in making these solutions and the top tips and looking at the success stories actually featured some that did fail. Some of it was things that were lack of financing, or the lack of foresight, is that many things were considered to be one-off events and then they had a limited success. So this was sort of one element of it, the lack of long looking forward, the problem that something might have fall off the political agenda with changes in administrations. But also there was a look at really the initiatives that didn't work and how they overcame the challenges. So a lot of the challenges was the fact that it's very resource intensive, that to be able to really involve the retailers, what we learned was it can sometimes be a matter of going door to door and knocking on the doors and involving them. So a very resource intensive thing. And if there aren't the resources to do this, then this also fails. And then perhaps I can choose an example maybe on the digital side, is again looking at what is it that makes the USP of an online platform that does this e-commerce selling. And I think one of the things that we learned as well that was a problem with some of these platforms, and this was highlighted at the Madrid workshop, was actually there wasn't budget put aside for advertising. And I hear that there has been advertising involved in the initiatives that you've suggested as well today. And this was something that didn't happen, is that it was a great idea and it launched. And one other that I will just bring before the coffee was also sometimes the challenges can also be where the brand is hijacked in some ways. And one example was where there was an e-commerce shop that was started, and actually the retailers weren't ready, and then the big brands came in and were producing products and putting products on there that was using the brand and the goodwill that had been built up around the initiative, but then bringing in things that just weren't really the target. So there were things like this, and a couple of the top tips contained in the guide kind of have these things like take a step back and have a look at it. So there is a smattering of that hopefully will come through if you read the guide and see the sort of top tips which are based on these failures and things that didn't work quite so well. Okay, well, I will stop here and so we can take a break for coffee. What I might just remind you and push you if you can is to fill out your post-its, and on the way out or on the way back in, just put on maybe a few details of what you want to learn about or what you would like to share. And then I think we have 15 minutes, so we'll reconvene after that. Thank you.